of us would receive what it is you are speaking to us. In Christ's name I pray, amen.
Amen. Okay. Okay, I don't know why that did that. Are we good? Okay. So I have an hour and a half that I have to put in 45 minutes. There's no way I can do that. So this may become 2 classes tonight. So this is session 2. And who was here last week? Session 1. How many of you know that you're a genius? Woohoo! So my whole goal last week was to release people into believing you're a genius, because if you don't believe it, he who knows not his own genius has none. He who believes not his own genius has none. And last week I shared with you all the reasons why you can know that you're genius, and I don't have time to review that. So you're going to have to ask somebody who was here. All I can tell you really quick, for those who missed, genius has absolutely nothing to do with IQ. Genius has been around for 500 years. IQ's been only around about less than 100. And it has 0 to do with IQ, and it comes from the same word Genesis comes from. And it means, the original meaning of genius means the gifting or spirit given you at your genesis, at your birth. So absolutely every person in here has been given the gift of genius and authentic genius. And I'm not just like using that word flippantly. You need to know the truth of it. In fact, I think of Andrew Womack, and you know how he says that we've all been given the same amount of faith, and it's what we do with it. Like, he has the same amount of faith I have, only he does a lot more with his. I believe it's the same with genius. We all have the same amount of genius, but until we know it, we use it, believe it, receive it, make use of it, it dies. And I think there's a lot of geniuses who went into their graves that we don't know about. Okay, I'm going to try to do this in 45 minutes. So last week I also mentioned that I believe 100% that the Great Awakening is a great creative awakening. One of the things that's true, there's a book out right now called The Creativity Crisis, and in spite of AI, or because of AI, and a lot of other things, creativity measurements, I don't know what the word is, have gotten lower and lower. Even though our IQ is going higher and higher, our creativity is getting lower and lower. And when Einstein says that imagination is more important than knowledge, you guys have heard that, right? That's not just a cute little saying. I believe that 100% imagination is more important than knowledge. In fact, I believe 100% that what I'm teaching over the next 8 weeks is way more important than what you learned in school for 12 to 18 years. I believe that absolutely. One of the reasons I believe that, boy, I'm just going off, not doing my notes at all. I have a 65-year-old friend in California. He has his own business. He's very wealthy. He has several businesses. He never learned to read and write to this day. And so I just want to say that, you know, the old school 3 R's, they are definitely valid, but we have been de-geniusized. So my goal tonight, so quick overview. Last week was about the genius of Jesus, and as he is, so are we. And the cool thing about Jesus' genius, you know, because of course he's the one who gave the genius to Solomon and Da Vinci and Einstein and everybody else. But I said this last week, if you spent a day with Da Vinci, that would not make you an inventor. His genius is not transferable. However, Jesus' genius is completely transferable. I know. And In fact, Leah and I were just talking, and she was talking about how she's being stretched now. And I said, yeah, but you're a genius. And she's like, yeah, I got that last week. So genius is actually more of a choice and a commitment, because I'm going to teach you how to release your genius. And I've already seen it work in numerous ways. But if you come and it's like so many things in Scripture, if you talk about it, if you think, oh, that's pretty cool, I really loved what you shared last week, Lynn, but you do nothing with it, nothing will come. And you'll think that, well, that didn't work. Okay, so the 8 sessions last week, Genius of Jesus. Yeah, I said that right? The genius of Jesus, as he is, so are we. Tonight, I'm going to talk about the way he thinks and genius thinks. And I'm calling it the superiority of visual thinking, because both geniuses throughout history, and I don't have time to tell you the story, but God gave me the coolest revelation and understanding, because I studied geniuses back when I was bush pilot in Alaska. I sat down in the dark many a winter and night, and I studied the geniuses. But it wasn't until like 13 years later that I put all the pieces together, and God showed me that over 85 to 90% of the geniuses throughout history that we know of and that we hold in high esteem were artists. And the other 10 to 15% were very self-proclaimed visual thinkers. So those that were artists were primarily visual thinkers, and I do believe art is the fastest way to reawaken your visual thinking. We were all born natural visual thinkers. We all have the same amount. From the minute you were born until you entered the school system, everything you learned through your eyes, right? We learned from watching. And then what happened is we entered the school system, and they said, oh, this is how we want you to think now, because the visual thinking is very fast. Go to your notes, Lynn. I was doing a review. So first week, Genius of Jesus. Second week is going to be Superiority of Visual Thinking tonight. The next time I speak, which I don't think it's going to be next week, Jill. I don't know if you heard that. The Power of Seeing. The time after that is The Authority of the Imagination. Next, The Language of Drawing. And do not be scared. Drawing is so amazing. And it's actually easier to learn than reading and writing. And I can teach you how to do that. The next week will be new wineskins for a new wine, which I believe is the whole Great Awakening. The next week after that is why art. And then the last one is how does all of this apply to all 7 mountains? Whichever mountain you're called to serve, this is going to help you serve that mountain. I am not trying to make anybody in here an artist. You didn't go to school to learn to read and write. I'm sorry if this is going to be like water of a fire hose. It's just, I have a lot. You did not go to school to learn to read and write. I mean, you went to school to read and write, not to become authors, right? But some people became authors. I'm not teaching you art to make you artists, but some of you will become amazing artists as a result, because you're all gonna, he's an example. When you learn how to draw and paint, you're gonna go, I can't believe I can do this. You really will. I've had that happen so many times, it's unbelievable. So I know I can teach anybody to draw. I've been doing it for 25 years. And pretty much I can teach you to draw in one night. I can. But the thing is you got to practice when I teach you, because if you don't practice, it's gone. All right? So the superiority of visual thinking, it's superior because of 100 reasons that I'm going to try to cover tonight. So like last week, my whole goal was to convince you through stories and everything that you were a genius. And so you could own it. Tonight, I want to convince you how powerful visual thinking is in your life and how important it is to learn. So I don't have my Bible, so somebody may have to look this up, or actually I wrote it here. The integration of visual thinking or seeing really, and amazing wisdom and knowledge happens right in the very beginning in Genesis 3. Did you guys know that? In Genesis 3, verse 4, it says, "For God knows," this is the enemy talking to Eve, "for God knows that in the day that you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Now, we would think maybe your brain would be open, your mind would be open, but it actually says your eyes will be opened. And over these series of talks, I'm going to show you how the eyes are actually a part of your brain. It's got brain cells in it. Let's just say that for now. And then in verse 7, after she eats of it, it says, "And you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew. So right at the very beginning is that integration of the visual and wisdom and knowledge. And there are so many scriptures. In fact, Jeremiah and Hezekiah and Ezekiel and all of them, they were all on a visual education curriculum. Every single one of them. Jeremiah opens up with God asking him, "What do you see? What do you see?" And normally I would read all this, but I don't have time. So you can look it up. But all of them were under curriculum, and John in Revelation at the end. All of it is, what do you see? Not what do you think, what do you hear, but primarily the visual trumps. So the fallen mind of man cannot understand the eternal realm, and you cannot access the way God thinks in a logical, linear, academic, verbal manner. Now, last week I shared some quotes with you from people who have written books on creativity and genius, and every single one says none of their insights, and notice the word insight is a visual word. And by the way, do you guys know the word idea means to see? There is so much connection there that this just will be fun to share as I think of it. And it's no coincidence that image-based or visual thinking is deeply embedded in the Bible, in the kingdom, and genius. God told me, do you think that's a coincidence that the same language for kingdom, because most people see in the kingdom, right? Turns out to be that's how most geniuses see. And in fact, the Hebrew language, God help me not to cover everything I know. The Hebrew language, out of 7,000 languages in the world, is one of like 5 languages in the world that is visual. Did you know it's considered a visual language? And man, it's so cool. I would love to tell you about that alone. It's so cool. But the Hebrew language is a visual language. I think there's only, I want to say 5 to 10 out of 7,000 languages. And it's the only one that's visual. Let's see. So the enemy, knowing the power of the visual, has tried to dumb us down. And I think the primary way he has done that is when we entered the school system, we learned the 3 R's, which are all linear ways of thinking. Sentences, numbers, 2 + 2 is 4. So we learn linear ways of thinking, and we put which subject at the bottom rung of the ladder? Art. And I think that was a tactic of the enemy, because most people think of art and learning art as doing paintings and putting it on the wall, and they don't know it's actually thinking and a language. And so the enemy knew that, I believe, and that's why he's tried to steal it. Okay, so Einstein, he was a self-confessed visual thinker, and he said, he wrote, "I very rarely think in words at all. A thought comes to me and I may try to express it in words afterwards." And one of the things that his peers said that when he made all these discoveries, they were all as a result of visual thinking. He saw himself running along the light beam. I mean, that's where MC squared comes from. It's really cool. Completely visual thinking. And in fact, okay, Lord, help me say the important stuff. Most of you may have heard that Einstein was so slow that when they put him in school, he was called mentally deficient. They took him out of school because he did not even learn to speak until he was 7. And so he was considered mentally super slow, so they took him out of school. What people don't know is his mom had the smarts to put him into a visual thinking school. It was called the Pestalozzi School. And in that school, he learned math and everything he knew visually. I'm just saying. In fact, one of my own favorite testimonies that I have is I have got to teach Creative Genius internationally, and one of the countries was New Zealand. And I got to have a bunch of the natives, speak to a bunch of the natives for 3 days and teach them what I'm teaching here. And on the third day, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the natives, the Maori there. When they want to honor you, they give you this stance and it looks really scary. They put this paint on their face and they're like, "Ruh!" And I walked in on the third day and they were like, "Ruh, ruh, ruh." I mean, that looks scary. It really does. And I went behind the sleeve because it was obviously at me. And so I thought I really offended them. And I'm like, "What happened? What did I do?" You know, and she goes, "Oh no, they're honoring you." And I said, "They're honoring me." And she said, "Yes, these guys have been taught their whole lives by missionaries that they're slow because they couldn't learn to read and write very well. And you have shifted them because I told them right in class, I go, reading and writing is a slow way of thinking. Visual thinking is very fast. And you guys are more natural at it than most." And they were like, "Oh my God, we're geniuses." And I totally shifted them. My mentor came up to me. He's the one who took me there. It was Dan McCollum. And he said, "Oh my God, Lynn, I've been coming here for 3 years, and one night you changed them that I've been doing for 3 years." and it was the shift in realizing their new identity, who they were really created to be. So it was pretty awesome, you guys. Now, here's another reason it's super important. So I could give you all these scriptures that integrate visual thinking and wisdom. I could also show you all the different geniuses, because I have 100 quotes on geniuses like Tesla. All of them were visual thinkers and how it came to them visually and not logically and linearly. But you guys are just going to have to believe me because I got to go on. But the other reason I want you to know it's really important, especially in this Great Awakening, why you need to learn visual thinking, and I know you're going to agree with me on this one, we are moving from a world based on words to a world based on images. With computers and games and all sorts of powerful interactive visual technologies that are out there now, many long-held beliefs about what is worth learning, what is worth doing, and who is intelligent is going to be turned upside down. So we can expect a renaissance of visual talents and skills. And I truly believe that when we step into our creativity and genius, and like I said, we're in a creativity crisis. It's going to get worse because now I mean, you guys are familiar with AI and the wonderful, amazing paintings that can come out of AI. I mean, that's dumbing us down further in learning visual thinking skills, because why bother to do art when you can just tell AI to do it and they can do something amazing? Are you guys with me on that, on what I'm talking about? So, I mean, these to me are all tactics of the enemy to steal us learning visual thinking, because there's no purpose for it, in our minds if we don't know. So my whole thing tonight is to give you purpose and a passion to learn visual thinking. And right now, our world is desperately in need of genius, more than ever. And I think as the body shows up in their creativity and their genius, we're going to catch their eye. They're going to be going, what do you have that we don't have? Let's see. Einstein said we can't solve problems by using the same thinking we used when we created them. So that means we have to change the way we think. Where have you guys heard that before? Change the way you think. And I believe we need to repent of putting IQ and things like Mensa up on its pedestal and honoring that, rather than honoring the wisdom that God wants to give us the way He wants to give it to us. Dr. Larry Smarr, he's a physicist, astronomer, former director of the National Center for Supercomputing Applications, said, I have often argued in my public talks for years that the graduation education process that produces physicists and scientists is totally skewed towards selecting those with analytical skills and rejecting those with visual and holistic skills. I have claimed that with the rise of scientific visualization as the new mode of scientific discovery, a new class of minds will arise as scientists. And I share these quotes with you so you guys just don't think it's me, that there are people out there in the upper echelons. Like, here's another one, IBM. A major new IBM survey of more than 1,500 CEOs from 60 countries and 33 industries worldwide have said chief executives believe that more than rigor, management discipline, or integrity, successfully navigating an increasingly complex world will require creativity. So, my goal, you guys, during my sessions with you here is to make visual thinking tangible and real and believable for you. Jesus, I don't know if you guys realize this, but he was all about visual thinking. He never explained anything to anybody. He actually gave us stories. And stories are word pictures. Stories is visual thinking. And the other thing that I love is that Jesus said, truly, truly, I say to you, the Son can do nothing of his own accord, but only what he, what? Sees the Father doing. So I don't believe visual thinking is a luxury. I think it's essential. I think it's the secret to accessing the mind of Christ in our spirits. And let's see. I'm just like feeling like a fire hose. Just trying to give you examples and reasons why visual thinking is super, super important. I have studied the geniuses like Einstein, Da Vinci, Tesla, Newton, Michelangelo, Aristotle, Churchill, Edison, Temple Grandin. Is Ryan here tonight? Oh, he's not here. Temple Grandin, anybody heard of her? All right, so she's written, this woman is autistic, okay? She is a genius. She is like a professor, has all sorts of honorary degrees, and has totally by herself changed the whole cattle industry and a couple other industries. But it started with the cattle industry, and it was primarily because autism, actually, if you guys know anything, Ryan was here last week, and he was telling me his cool testimony. I don't know if I should share it, but his background with autism, and he was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing, because autistic people are actually visual thinkers naturally. And there are a lot of geniuses hidden in the autistic people, if people are willing to work with them and realize where their genius is. Anyway, all these geniuses, they all clearly have stated that visual thinking or the visual mode of thought was their primary way of processing. Okay, so you have all that history, all these people saying, yep, visual thinking. Now we're going to talk about why it's true in the brain. Can you flip that over for me, please? So I'm going to talk to you about the secret life of your brain. Don't I have everything on here. I shouldn't have done that, but oh well. Up on the upper left, we have an iceberg. And most people have heard the old quote that says we only use 7 to 10% of our brain. And the other percent that's underneath the water we don't use. Actually, the part that's under the water is 95% responsible for your actions and what your life is like right now. That's your subconscious. So the part that's above water is your conscious mind, but it's your subconscious mind that determines your life. Now, the interesting thing is to think of those as two different countries. And the conscious mind country, their language is primarily verbal. Oh, that's a good idea. Thank you. And the part of the subconscious mind, the language is primarily visual. So it's in our subconscious mind. If I walk over there, is that going to be a problem from here? Okay, so I want you guys to get that. I want you to understand how this works. The subconscious is where all your beliefs, your expectations, your values, your past experiences, all that exists here, and it's a filter. And they've actually proven that every decision you make happens here 6 seconds before it happens here. And when you think you're making your decision with your conscious mind, you actually already made it in your subconscious mind. But you don't know that, so you think, yeah, I bought that car because, and then you give your rational, linear, logical reasons for doing it. But actually, it's your beliefs and your experiences, all this other stuff, sorry, did that screw you up? That affects your decisions. So most of your decisions are made through the filter of your subconscious mind. Are you guys with me? And the primary, so if you want to change your thinking, it's not going to happen here. It has to happen down here. This is also where your emotions are. So if you use the visual language, so one of the things, so I have a business called the Creative Genius League. And one of the things we create in there is belief books. Because beliefs are 100%. Nothing is impossible to those who believe. Everything of the kingdom is based on belief. And so we create these belief books to change our thinking, and they're primarily visual and experiential. If you can make, how many of you guys know there are people that have read the Bible and can make quotes, and they're really not even Christians? It doesn't change their beliefs. So you have to actually make it experiential to change your beliefs. And the visual is one of our senses, and it trumps all the other senses. So I'm just going to go forward. So, for instance, if people make a declaration, I want to lose 30 pounds, and that's your goal, and you make it with your conscious mind, and everybody's heard, like, you got to declare it every morning, declare it every night, and you make all these declarations, but your brain, based on your past experiences, your expectations, all the stuff that's in your subconscious, you're paddling toward this goal with your conscious mind, but can you see that everything you believe in your subconscious is going to win over your conscious mind? So it doesn't matter how many times you declare if you don't change what you believe in your subconscious.
It's just so good and everybody wants to hear it, so if we pull this out before you can take it with you.
Okay, yeah, I don't like doing that because I have a tremor.
Do you want someone to come hold it for you?
No, I'll do it. I'll grow up. Guys, pray for my tremor. Especially it's worse tonight because I banged my finger inside a door. Anyway, the neuroscientists say that 95% of all your brain activity is subconscious activity. And David Engelman is the one who says that. I usually do quotes, but I'm trying to really buzz through this. For those of you who want to know more, I'm probably going to have to do a course here. Hold on. So if you look at visual thinking in YouTube, pretty much they're going to go, yeah, visual thinking is really powerful, and this is how you do it. And it's really a translation rather than what they'll do is instead of saying a flower, they'll say draw a flower. To me, that's translation. But that's not the power. That's like this much of the power of visual thinking. And so what I do is I teach visual thinking, and I don't know if I'm going to have time. I have all sorts of stuff that's supposed to be written on there. Anyway, visual thinking is so much deeper and broader, and you all do it all the time. When you are driving down the road, how many people think, oh man, I get the best insights on a long road trip? That's because you're driving, and you have engaged visual thinking while you're driving. When you are driving, how many of you know that you can be driving down the road and go a long ways and have a conversation with your sister, this has happened to me, and you're having an argument, and you haven't paid any attention whatsoever to driving. So who's doing the driving? Well, it's your visual thinking. You actually can visually think at the same time you're thinking in another language with your sister, your verbal thinking. And the visual thinking happens, to me, it's like a fish out that doesn't know it's in water. Your visual thinking is happening all the time. My goal is to help you to make it intentional and purposeful. If you come up with great ideas when driving, that already gives you a clue. That's a good time to process when you need to make decisions, for all of that stuff, because you're already in a visual thinking mode. Chess is visual thinking. Ball sports is visual thinking. So I'm trying to think of all, flying. Yeah, I was a pilot. So when I flew, that's visual thinking. And when visual thinking actually shifts you out of your left analytical brain and into your right brain, and that's why you get all these great ideas. So it's a really beautiful way of thinking, by the way. Would you flip that back up? So there are 3 elements of visual thinking. And there's 3 kinds of images. There's the images that you see when you drive down the road. So this is level 1 of visual thinking. There's actually 5 levels. If you get level 1, you're already past 90% of the population, because most people don't even think visual thinking is a real, not only valid, but valuable way of thinking. But guess who does know? Andrew Womack. And do you guys realize most of his genius comes from his visual thinking? So, and he acknowledges that. And but anyway, 3 kinds of images. There's the kind you see in your imagination. There's the kind you see out there in the real world. And then there's the kind that you draw. But each of these are also 3 ways of thinking. So just to make sure I say it right. So there's thinking by seeing. And that's what you're doing when you're driving down the road, like I said. But it's the best tool given us to learn anything. Because even though that was the only tool we used till we were 5 years old, it's still our primary tool. But because we do it all the time, we're not even aware of it. So it's our very best sense tool. In fact, Da Vinci said that the secret to all his genius, he was asked, what's the secret to your genius? And he used the Latin term sapere videre, which means to know how to see. And so the process of learning to see accurately is super, super important. And especially today, because I don't know if you guys realize this, but quantum physics is based primarily on observation. Is anybody in here a quantum physics person? And could go, yes, observation is super, super key in quantum physics. Anyway, so there's thinking by seeing, there's thinking by drawing. The reason you learn how to draw is because your eyes, make sure I say this, your brain sees and your eyes think. If your eyes are when our brain sees, okay, I gotta give examples. So, because of the subconscious mind, what you see goes through the filter of the subconscious mind and it lies to you. So I'm going to give you guys an example right now. After you pass out paper, please, and if you guys don't have a pencil, let them know and he can give you a pencil. If somebody could help them, that would be awesome. I'm going to show you guys and blow your mind tonight about how much your eyes lie to you, okay? But it's not your eyes lying, it's your brain lying to you. Because the information, I'm going to cover this next time I speak so that it'll make sense to you. But when the information comes into your eyes, it goes through the optic nerve. The information goes through the optic nerve into the visual cortex. And then the visual cortex tells you what you see, not your eyeballs. And I'm going to prove that to you by a drawing you're going to do, super simple drawing you're going to do tonight, okay? And it's going to show you how much your brain tells you what you see over what your eye actually sees. So while he's doing that, you think by drawing helps us to see accurately. I'm going to cover each of these in a separate class. All right, because I've got like 7 minutes here. I'm going to teach a whole class on your eyes and how they think. I'm going to teach an entire class on your imagination and how it works. And then an entire class on drawing and how you see. So does everybody have paper? Okay, we're going to do a little experiment tonight. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to, what you're going to do is you're going to draw heads, okay? You're going to look around and you're going to imagine, okay, I have to draw this scene right in front of me. I have to draw her head. So you're going to look at the head closest to you and you're going to draw, let's say we draw 5. All you're going to draw is a circle, you guys. This is not going to be hard. Draw a circle for a head. Because I want to make a point here. You're going to draw the head closest to you, and you're going to draw heads far away. And I want you to notice the size difference. So I'm giving you a hint that'll help you. So I want you to draw at least 6 heads. One head very close to you, then I want you to look and go, okay, this is the size of the head, mid-room. And then I want you to look at the size of the head furthest from you and draw that head. Okay, you get 1 minute. 1 minute to do it. Does everybody understand what I want you to do? Draw 6 or 7 heads, some close, some in the middle ground, some far away. And I want you to guess at the approximate size you would draw them if you went into detail. So draw a head close to you, draw some heads in the middle ground, and draw the heads far away. As if you were gonna, this is the very beginning of a drawing and you wanna kind of get the measurements right.
Can you reiterate what you said?
Yes. Okay, you're gonna draw 6 to 7 heads. You're going to look across the room, and you're going to draw some heads that are close to you, heads that are kind of in the middle ground from you, and heads that are far away. Furthest point in the room from you. Okay? And get it like as if you were actually starting to do an entire drawing of everybody in here. All right? And you got to fit them all in your paper. You're only going to do 6 or 7 heads, and the heads are circles. Okay? Super easy. How many have finished doing that? Okay, 30 more seconds. Like I'm on page 5. Okay, everybody done? Okay, so now what you're going to do is I want you to take your pencil, okay? And I want you to hold it up. I need a pencil. I want you to hold it up to the head closest to you, and I want you to put the far end of the pencil at the top of the head and measure to the chin. Okay? So that's how big, for instance, JP's head is for me. All right? I want you to measure it. Arms straight out. Okay, stay with me. Once you have this measurement, I want you to put it over the head of the person you actually already drew close to you. And I want you now to make the head the right size. On your piece of paper. Okay, hurry up and do that. All you have to do is change the small circle into the size that you just measured and put that on the paper. All right. Did you guys do that? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just that one head that's close to you. Everybody done? Are you done? Now I want you to hold the pencil up, and the head you drew that's furthest from you, I want you to do the same thing. The top end at the top of the head, and put your thumb, mark it where their chin is, and put it over that person that you drew and draw the correct size. Okay, how many people had an enlightening moment? You didn't have an enlightening moment, you guys? Okay, what should have happened if you did it correctly is you probably had all the heads pretty close in size, but then when you did it by measurement, you were shocked at the size difference. How many were shocked at the size difference? And the reason for that is because when you drew the first time, you drew with your brain. You drew what the brain said. Well, all the heads are fairly close to the same size. And when you guys look across the room, don't they all still look kind of the same size? Even though you've done that measurement. I want you guys to experience this. If you're not experiencing it, it's a huge thing. Did you experience it, Joe? Yeah. Everybody's smiling. We don't need hair.
I want them all full of joy.
Yeah. mostly I want you guys to understand, and if you missed it, do it again, because it doesn't matter how many times you do it, it should still shock you that the size that you think you see right now, and then when you actually measured, which one was accurate? Which one was accurate? The second one when you measured, right? And your eye told you when you measured. It was your eye telling you what you saw. The first time was your brain telling you what you saw. And shoot, I'm already at 6:45. If you guys got nothing else, practice this again until you get it. Because I want you to see the difference between when you see with your eyes and when you see with your brain. Can you guys see the reason for learning how to draw? Because drawing, when you learn how to draw accurately, which I'll teach you how to do, and it's super simple as what we did tonight almost. When you learn to draw when you learn to see accurately, you are going to learn to start seeing things you never saw before. He's shaking his head. He joined my Creative Genius League, and your ability to see is gonna go from like this to this, because right now all of you see very narrowly. In fact, I'm gonna end with this little story. That's a true story. Do you guys know that we have a myopia epidemic? That less than 50 years ago, not even that. I don't have my dates exactly right, but I think it's like 20 to 30 years ago, only 15% of the people that were my age had myopia. But myopia has gotten so big. Myopia means narrow seeing. It is now an epidemic to the point that 70% of 17-year-olds in China have myopia. Across the globe, our ability to see has gotten narrower and narrower and narrower. And at some point in my sessions, I'm going to show you how to get your eyesight back, because I have great stories about that. Okay, I'm going to quit. Yes. Oh, you guys, for those of you who didn't get on my email list, it's a cool email. I send it out every Thursday. It's free. If you didn't give it to me last week, give it to me tonight. Meet JP up here at the desk. And give me your name and your email, and you will get my Creative Genius email that comes out every week. It's called TT, Transformational Thursday email. It comes out tomorrow morning if you sign up. So thank you, guys. I'm really honored that you came and you're trusting me, and I feel like, are you guys good with the water out of the fire hose thing tonight? I only covered half.
I would like to listen to more.
Yeah.